Good morning, all. In the last class, we discussed about the deadlock. What is deadlock? When the deadlock occurs, and what are the characterizations for the characteristics of the deadlocks, and also the necessary conditions, right? So, four different necessary conditions for the deadlock to occur are mutual exclusion, hold and wait, no preemption, and circular wait, right? So, today we'll discuss about the resource allocation graphs. So, here the deadlocks can be described more precisely by using the resource allocation graph. But before starting this, we'll see the attendance. Out of 72 students, only 43 have attended. So we are considering this attendance for sending the attendance to the VTU. CRs Madhura and Sujit, please inform all strictly that based on this we are going to give the attendance, and inform them everybody should join the class. Okay, so we'll start with the resource allocation graph. As I already said, the deadlocks are more described more precisely by using the resource allocation graph. So first we'll see what is a resource allocation graph. Then we'll see how it will be used to detect the deadlock or to identify the deadlock. First, so you already studied about the graph, right? What is graph and how the graph can be constructed. So here two types of graphs, directed edge and non-directed edge or undirected edge graph. So here we have the example of the directed graph. So what is a graph? A graph consisting of set of nodes or set of vertices and set of edges. See here we have set of nodes and set of vertices. So set of vertices are represented by V and set of edges are represented by E, right? And here uh, the set of vertices once again is partitioned into two types, that is the set of processes and the set of resources. Set of processes are represented by P and set of resources is represented by R. So P is equal to P1 P2 up to Pn is representing the set of processes. Means if the system consisting of three processes, then the P is equal to P1 comma P2 comma P3. So that represents the set of system for the given set of processes for the given system. So here P is equal to P1 P2 up to Pn is the set consisting of all the processes in the system, where R is equal to R1 R2 to Rm consisting of the set of all resource type of the system. And in the graph, as I said, the graph consisting of set of nodes and set of edges, or set of vertices and set of edges, right? So here, see here, it consisting of set of vertices and set of edges. Here we have two types of nodes, two types of vertices, set of processes P1, P2, P3, and set of resources R1, R2, and R3. See in the diagram you can see that we are using two different representation for representing the vertices. See here we are representing the process set of processes P1, P2, P3, right? Three processes are there. We are representing them as circles, and we have four resource types R1, R2, R3 and R4 that we are representing as rectangular boxes. Why we are using that representation? Because in the set of resources, because each resource consisting of set of instances, that's why we are representing the resource as a rectangular box, whereas the process is represented as the circle. Understood why we are representing the resource as a rectangle box? Because each resource consisting of set of instances. So here in the graph you can see that R2 and R3 consisting of 2 and 3 instances, R2 consisting of 2 instances, whereas R4 consisting of 3 instances. That's why we are representing the resources in the form of rectangular box, whereas processes are represented as the circle. Understood? Okay, next we'll move back to the previous slide. So here you can see that the process is represented by a circle, whereas the resource type is represented by the rectangular box, whereas in this example, the see here, so this is the resource type which consisting of the four instances, where the instances are represented as dot within each rectangular box in the resource allocation graph. So next we'll see what is the we'll see what are the request edge and assignment edge. Request edge means whenever the process is requesting for the resource and the process is in the waiting state until the resource is allocated, and that is represented as the request edge, that you can see here, the request edge. So it is the, so as I said here, we are constructed the directed resource allocation graph because we are representing the directions here, right? So in this graph we have two types of edges. One is called as the request edge, other one is the assignment edge. Request edge means whenever the process is requesting for the resource and the process is in the waiting state until the resource is allocated to the requested graph. Now requested process. So now let us consider this example here. Pi is requesting for the Rj, so that is represented by Pi implies Rj. Okay, Pi implies Rj means the process Pi is requested for the resource Rj, and that is in the process Pi is in the waiting state. And the next one is the assignment edge. What is assignment edge? Whenever the process requested for the resource and if the resource is allocated, and that allocation is represented as the assignment edge. Here you can see that the resource Rj is allocated to Pi, so that is the assignment edge. So the process requesting for the resources are represented by the request edges, and the resource allocated to the process is represented by the assignment edge. Understood? Any doubt in this? Okay, so we'll move on to the next one, that is here we'll see. So here this I think this you understood, right? That is process we are representing by a circle, resource type is represented by rectangular box, and within each rectangular box number of instances are present. Here 4 instances are present, that is represented here. And here let us see that the process Pi is requesting for the resource Rj. So here the process can be requested for an instance of Rj, means whenever the process is requesting for the resource, there may be number of instances for each resource, right? So here the process Pi is requesting for an instance of Rj. See in the next case, that is in the assignment edge, you can see that. So this is the assignment of resource to the process Pi. So whenever the process is requested, then the uh, resource is allocated to the process. So among 4 instances, any of the instance is allocated to the process Pi. Here see, you can see that in the figure that, so out of 4 instances, only one instance is allocated to the process Pi, and that is called as the assignment edge. Understood? Okay, next we'll move on to the example of the resource allocation graph. So here you can see that 4 processes are there, P1, P2 and P3. 4 resources are there, R1, R2, R3 and R4. R1 is having only one instance, R3 is also having only one instance, whereas R2 is having 2 instances and R4 is having 3 instances. And in the graph you can see that P1 is requesting for R1. See the direct edge, that is the request edge from P1 to R1. So here P1 is requesting for R1, and that is represented by the request edge. But the R1 is already allocated to P2, means P2 is holding the resource R1, and hence this is represented as the assignment edge, means resource R1 is already allocated to P2. Similarly, the resource R1 is allocated to P2, and similarly here P2 also holds the resource type R2. So here you can see that For R2, two instances are there. One instance of resource type R2 is held by P2 and other one is held by P1. So P1 is holding R2 and requesting for R1, whereas P2 is holding the resource R1 as well as R2 and it is requesting for the resource R3. Similarly, R3, we can see that this R3 is held by process P3. So P3 is holding the resource R3 and P2 is requesting for R3. Whenever P3 releases the resource R3, then only the resource R3 can be allocated to P2. Why? Because only one instance is there here. Similarly for R1 also, since only one instance of R1 is there, unless P2 releases R1, that cannot be allocated to P1. Understood this resource allocation graph? So here we are mainly concentrating on representing the number of processes and number of resources available. Processes are represented by circles, resources are represented by the rectangular boxes, and within each rectangular box we are having the dots, right? Dot indicates number of instances. Here for R2, two dots are there, that indicates that two instances of R2 is available. Similarly for R4, three dots are there, it indicates that three instances of R4 is available, but whereas for R1 and R3 only one instance is available. Understood? So this is the representation of a resource allocation graph. Next we'll see how we can represent the set of processes. So here as I said, the resource allocation graph consisting of set of vertices and set of edges. So which are the edges and which are the vertices are there? Vertices we are representing by V, where V is again partitioned into two types. One is set of processes P and the other one is set of resources R, right? So set of processes P and set of resources R. So please wait, I'll take the snapshot of the attendance. Okay, now I'll take the attendance once again. At last I'll take the attendance. Okay, so I'm explaining the resource allocation graph, right? As I said, it consisting of set of vertices and set of edges. Set of vertices are partitioned into a set of processes and set of resources. So set of processes are represented by P. Here P is equal to P1, P2, P3 because three processes are there. Similarly, R is a set of resources. How many resources are there? 4. So R is equal to R1, R2, R3, R4. R1, R2, R3 and R4 are the set of resources. Now how to represent the set of edges? How many edges are present here? So as I said, here we have two types of edges. One is the request edge and assignment of other one is the assignment edge. Together both will represent the set of edges. Then we'll see how many edges are there. One is from P1 to R1, means P1 implies R1, that is one edge, and other one is P2 implies R3. So first we'll see the request edges. Which are the request edges here? P1 implies R1 is one request edge and P2 implies R3 is another request edge. And what are the assignment edges? Assignment edges are R1 implies P2, then R3 implies P3, R2 implies P2 and R2 implies P1. So how many? 4 assignment edges are there and 2 request edges. Then set of edges is equal to, that is E is equal to P1 implies R1, P2 implies R3, then R2 implies R1 implies P2, R3 implies P3, R2 implies P1 and R2 implies P2. So these are the set of edges. Understood? Shall I repeat? Which are the set of edges? First one is P1 implies R1. Next one is P2 implies R3, that is the second request edge, and next is R1 implies P2, next R3 implies P3, next one is R2 implies P2 and R2 implies P1. So it set of edges, how many? 6 edges are there. Among 6, 2 are the request edges and 4 are the assignment edges. So this gives the set of edges. Any doubt in this? Okay, so what are the resource instances here? For R1 only one instance is there, for R3 one instance is there, for R2 two instances are there, and for R4 how many instances are there? 3 instances are there. Now we will see the process states. We have 3 processes. Then what are the process states? P1 is requesting for R1. Here P1 is requesting for R1 by holding the resource R2. That is the process state for P1. Understood? The P1 is requesting for the resource type R1 by holding the resource one instance of resource type R2. Similarly for P2, P2 is requesting for the resource type R3 by holding the resource type R1 and one instance of resource type R2. So P2 is holding two resource types R1 and R2 and it is requesting for R3. Now what is the process state for P3? P3 he is holding an instance of R3. Understood? These are the process states. Understood? Any doubt in that? Any doubt in that? Okay. Any doubt? No? Next we'll move on to how the resource allocation graphs are used to detect the deadlocks that we'll see next. Now you understood, right, how we are constructing the resource allocation graph, where it consisting of set of processes, set of resources, and what are the instances for each resource, and how we are representing the request edge and the assignment edge. Next we'll move on to the detection of deadlocks with the help of the resource allocation graph. So how we will see that? So this is an example for resource allocation with a deadlock. Now in this we can say that so normally when we are considering the resource allocation graph, if the graph doesn't consisting of any cycles, or if the graph consisting of no cycles, then we say that the deadlock is not occurred. Please listen. If the resource allocation graph consisting of no cycles, means if no cycles are present in the resource allocation graph, then we say that the deadlock is not occurred. Understood? If the resource allocation graph consisting of the cycles, then we say that the deadlock may exist, and it is not the condition that the deadlock should occur. That is not the case. If the resource allocation graph consisting of cycles, then we say that the deadlock may exist, may not exist. That will see the example. Okay, here if the resource allocation graph consisting of cycles, then there are two possibilities. One possibility is the deadlock may exist, other possibility the deadlock may not exist. Both the possibilities are there if the resource allocation graph consisting of the cycles. Next we'll see how we can use that. Now let us consider this scenario, which are the cycles present here. So one is from, we see that, so one cycle will consider from P1 to R1, then R1 to P2, P2 to R3, then R3 to P2, R3 to P3, then P3 to P1, then R2 to P1. So here one cycle existed, right? One cycle is there, that is from P1 to R1, R1 to P2, P2 to R3, R3 to P3, P3 to R2, and one more is from R2 to P1. So this completes the cycle. So now the resource allocation graph consisting of a cycle. Next we will see one more cycle. Here one more cycle is from P2 to R3, R3 to P3, P3 to R2, then R2 to P2. So this is another cycle. So in this graph, two cycles are there. One cycle is from this, right? This is the one cycle. This is one cycle, and other cycle is this one. This is another cycle, right? So two cycles exist in the resource allocation graph. Next we will see whether the existence of the cycles leads to the deadlock or not. Now how we can find that if the cycles are existed in the resource allocation graph, then how we can detect that? If the all the resources in the graph consisting of one instance, means if each resource consisting of one instance, then if the cycles are present in the resource allocation graph, then we say that the deadlock is occurred. So here let us consider the resource type R1 and R3. For R1 and R3 only one instance is present. Hence if cycle is present involving these two resource types, then we say that the deadlock will occur. Understood? Clear? So how we are using the resource allocation graph to detect the deadlocks? So first we will check that whether the resource allocation graph consisting of cycles or not. If the resource allocation graph consisting of cycles, then we will verify how many instances of resources are there. So for R1 and R2 only one instance is there. So if the resource type consisting of only one instance and the cycles are present, then we say that the deadlock will occur for that particular cycle. Understood? So here in this example, R1 and R3 are having only one instance and the resource allocation graph consisting of cycles. Hence we say that the deadlock will occur, and the process P1, P2 and P3, all the process are experiencing the deadlock, or we can say that the process P1, P2 and P3 are deadlocked. Why? You can see this. So here P2 holds R1, whereas P1 is requesting for R1. Unless P2 releases the resource R1, the P1 will never get that resource. Similarly, R3 is held by P3, whereas P2 is requesting for R3. Unless the process P3 releases the resource R3, the process P2 will never get that. So then we'll say that the P2 is deadlocked, or the deadlock occurs for process P2. Similarly for P3, P3 holds R3 and it is requesting for R2, but R2 is having two instances, those are already held by P1 and P2. Unless either P1 or P2 releases the resource, P3 will never get that resource, and P3 is also blocked. Hence all three processes P1, P2, P3 are entered into the deadlock situation. Understood? In this way we can make use of the resource allocation graph to detect the deadlock. So what are the conditions for the deadlock? So once the resource allocation graph is constructed with the help of the direct edges and the request edges, we will verify whether the resource allocation graph consisting of the cycles are not. So once the cycles are present in the resource allocation graph, we will verify whether the resources consisting of one instances or more than one instance. If it consisting of more than one instance, for some of the cases the deadlock will never occur, but here R1 and R3 consisting of only one instance, and hence we say that the deadlock will occur. Why? Because both the cycles, here that one cycle is this, right? This is the one cycle, and the other cycle is this, right? This is the other cycle. So both the cycles involves either R1 and R3, whereas the one instance is present for R1 and R3. Hence the deadlock will occur for all three processes P1, P2 and P3. So this is about the detection of the deadlocks with the help of the resource allocation graph. If the graph doesn't consisting of any cycles, so we'll move on to this, right? Here you can check that for this cycle, right, there is no cycle. For if you consider this, there is no cycle, right? P1 to R1 is there, P1 to R1 and R1 to P2, but here P2 to R2 to P2 is there, R2 to P1 is there, no cycle exists. If no cycle exists, then we can directly say that no deadlock will occur, but in this case deadlock will occur. Why? Because it consisting of cycles. So we'll see one more example. Even though there is a presence of the cycles, but it will not lead to the deadlock situation. Now consider this example. Here in this example we have four processes, right? P1, P2, P3 and P4. Here also there is a presence of the cycle. You can see this, right? P1 to R1 and R1 to P3, P3 to R2 and R2 to P1. Cycle exists, but it will not lead to the deadlock situation. Why? Because the resources involved R1 and R2 consisting of two instances. If one of the instance is released by any process, then that will be allocated to the requested process. Now let us consider here. For the resource type R2 is already allocated to P1 and P3 is requesting for R2, whereas one more instance of R2 is already allocated to P4. Here what happens, since P4 is not is requesting for any other resources, once it is used that resource R2, immediately it releases the resource R2 and that can be allocated to P3. Hence in this scenario the deadlock will never occur. Why? Because more than one instance is present for each resource type, then the deadlock will never occur. But if the resource consisting of one instance, then there may be a chance that the deadlock will occur if there is a presence of the cycle within the resource allocation group, resource allocation graph. So here in this example, even though the cycle is present, this cycle is present, but the deadlock will not occur. Why? Because the resource R2 is already allocated to P2. If P2 releases the resource R2, then that can be allocated to P3. Similarly here R1 is having two instances, one is given to or allotted to P2, other one is allotted to P3, and once the resource R1 is released by P2, then that can be allotted to the requested process P1. So hence whatever the resources requested by either process P1 or P3 will be allocated, and there is no chance of the deadlock situation. Understood? So this is about finding the or identifying the deadlocks with the help of the resource allocation graph. So it is very important. In the exam or the test, they may ask what is resource allocation graph and how the resource allocation graph can be used to detect the deadlocks, that you have to explain. So with the example, by considering the graph, you have to explain how the deadlock will occur, what are the conditions, and even though the cycles occurs, whether the deadlock will occur or not, that you have to explain with the example. Any doubt in this? Any doubt? If not, I'll move on to the next topic. Okay, so this is about the resource allocation graph. By using resource allocation graph, we are checking whether the deadlock will occur or not. So that they explained, right, what are the basic facts we related to the resource allocation graph. If graph contains no cycles, no deadlock. If graph contains a cycle, if only one instance per resource type exists, then the deadlock will occur. If several instances per resource type is there, then there is a possibility of the deadlock. The deadlock may occur or may not occur. So next we'll move on to the methods for handling deadlock. Shall I continue this? Okay, in 2 minutes I'll complete these 3 points, and in the next class I'll explain these. Okay. So here we are talking about the methods for handling the deadlocks. So we can deal with the deadlock problem in one of the three ways. First way is, first we'll consider that ensure that the system will never enter a deadlock state. So there we'll use the deadlock prevention and the deadlock avoidance mechanisms. So by using the deadlock prevention and deadlock avoidance mechanism, we ensures that the system will never enter into the deadlock condition. And second point is allow the system to enter into the deadlock state and then recover. It means once the system entered into the deadlock, then we'll detect the deadlock, then we'll recover from the deadlock by using different deadlock detection and recovery algorithms. And the third method is ignore the problem and pretended that deadlocks will never occur in the system. So always we'll assume that the deadlock will never occur in the system, and this method is used by most of the operating systems including Unix and Windows. So there are three methods for handling the deadlock. So first we will ensure that deadlock will never the deadlock will never occur. How? By using the deadlock prevention and deadlock avoidance algorithm. And second one is we are allowing the system to enter into the deadlock situation. Once it enters, then we'll use the deadlock detection algorithms and deadlock recovery algorithms to recover from the deadlock. And the third method is we'll ignore the problem, means we'll assume that the system will never enter into the deadlock systems, and this method is used by most of the operating systems including Windows and Unix operating system. We'll see these three methods in detail in the next class. Any doubt? Any doubt? We'll see these in the, that is how we can use the deadlock prevention algorithms, deadlock avoidance algorithms, and deadlock detection algorithms, and deadlock recovery algorithms. That we'll see these algorithms in the coming classes. Okay, then if no doubt, then I'll stop here itself and we'll continue it in the next class. Tomorrow holiday, no classes, and we'll meet on Thursday, right? Okay. Okay, bye. If you are not having any doubt, I'll stop here itself. Okay. Okay, bye. Please see us, Madhushri and Sujit, inform all the students to connect to the class, because out of 72 only 49 have connected to the class, right? Remaining how many? 23 people. So based on this only we are sending the attendance to VTU. Please ensure that everybody should attend the class. Please, Sujit and Madhushri, inform to all. Okay. So I'll end my session here itself. We'll move on. We'll meet on Thursday. Okay. Bye.